Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Manik Madan. I am currently a resident doctor based in the US, and in this video we will take a deep dive into how much money do doctors make in the United States. We'll be going over firstly why this knowledge is very critical for you to not lose millions of dollars down the line once you become a doctor in the US. Secondly, we'll talk about what are the average salaries and then like specialty specific salaries, who makes the most, who makes the least. We'll also go into location specific salaries as salaries change when you go to different states or cities. We'll also go into other types of salaries that doctors make in the US, which is other than the base salary. This includes bonuses, incentives, and so much more. We'll also go into what specialties are in high demand versus low demand, and that also sometimes affects compensation. We'll go into which specialties are very specified, and lastly, the work-life balance in different specialties. This data is based upon multiple physician surveys that were done in 2024, consisting of tens of thousands of physicians who came out with how much money they were making, so other people could get to know what can they expect. So let's start. First of all, why this knowledge is so critical. Yes, practicing medicine isn't all about money, but every physician deserves to be compensated fairly and equitably. We need to understand that yes, like you should go into a specialty not for the sake of the money, but you should at the same time also know what your worth is so that no hospital takes advantage of you as a physician. So if you think about people who make the most amount of money in healthcare, it's actually the CEOs of different hospitals, and a lot of the times it's actually beneficial to them to have physicians brainwashed to not care about a lot of money, because that makes them millions of more, because physicians don't know what to expect, and also because of that they can't negotiate. So I want to empower you with this data so that whatever specialty you go in, whichever region you go in, you know your worth and you don't end up losing millions of dollars because you ended up into a contract where you are being massively underpaid in terms of like your specialty or location. So it's very important to know the average compensation of a physician in the US, the average sign-on bonus, what is your specialty specific salary on an average, how much your salary should change in your specialty based upon location, which could be city-wise or area-wise, or it could also be state-wise, and additional factors that should add to your compensation such as experience level, your education, the job market trends, and the industry standards. So how much money do doctors make on an average? And this can be divided into two kinds of doctors that you'll see in the US. The first one is what we call as primary care physicians, which is represented in blue, and the second one is specialists, which is represented in orange. So a PCP is a physician who basically is a family medicine doctor or an internal medicine doctor who's practicing on an outpatient basis, and it's the first level of healthcare that most patients will encounter. Specialists, on the other hand, are like they're on the second level where they're referred to like multiple patients by the PCPs who encounter, let's say, if somebody has diabetic retinopathy, they'll send them to an ophthalmologist who is the specialist. So on an average in 2024, the salary of a PCP was $265,000 versus a specialist, which was about $382,000, as you can see here. This is about, if you look at PCPs, it's an increase of about 2% for PCPs from 2023 to 2024, versus if you look at specialists, it's an increase of about 3.5%. So specialists actually gain more as years go by. So that is interesting. So what are the other benefits that you can expect other than the base compensation? And right now I'm not going into bonuses, which I'll go into later. That's extra salary that a lot of doctors make. Firstly, 65% of physicians reported that they got health insurance, which was provided by their employer. Secondly, 63% reported that they got malpractice insurance, which is to protect you from any kind of lawsuits. About 58% reported that they got retirement or 401k, and this is a tax-free investment where if you invest some money, your employer will match it. For example, if I invest $2,000, my employer will also give in $2,000 and they'll invest it into my account. So, and this is tax free, by the way, and this goes into an index fund which and grows over time, and you can take it out whenever you retire, or you can even do it before it in some cases. Fourthly, 57% of physicians reported that they got a disability, which is if you ever get sick and you can't work for, let's say, a period of months or days, the disability insurance pays you for that. Fifthly, education forgiveness. So if, let's say, if you have a loan of $500,000 and you're interested in the US, in certain rural areas and certain places where there's a lot of demand, this can be forgiven if you work for them for, let's say, 5 years or 10 years, and that's educational forgiveness. Now let's talk about who makes more, self-employed or employed physicians. And based upon the survey, it shows that, like, on an average, if a physician is self-employed, they make $374,000 a year, versus if they are employed, they make $344,000 a year. So it's basically a $30,000 difference if you look at it, and that's about 7 to 8%. Next, we need to talk about the gender pay gap. In primary care, men make more than women, and you can see men make about $286,000 a year, and women make $239,000 a year. And the difference, if you compare that, is about 19%. So male physicians make 19% more than female physicians in primary care. And this is again decreasing over time, gender pay gap in general, and you'll see that in like specialty specific data as well. So when I show you this, and this is the specialty specific data, you can see male physicians on an average make $415,000 and female physicians on an average make $327,000. And the difference, if you compare it, is about 30%. So male physicians make 30% more than female physicians when you look at specialists. So this is the difference in pay gap per year. So in 2023, you can see the pay gap was higher on an average, versus if you look in 2024, the pay gap has decreased. So like in 2023, it was about, I think, 27%. And now it has decreased to 25%, as you can see here. There's also a difference in compensation based upon race. And I'll go into why that is. It's not in general because of race. There's a lot of confounding factors here that affect salaries here. So if you look at Caucasian white ethnicity, they make on an average $358,000 a year, versus Asian American, who make $351,000 a year, versus Latin Hispanic origin physicians who make $338,000, versus African American Black physicians who make $311,000 per year. The authors of the survey commented that the differences between all of these was because of gender plus age. As you saw, male physicians on an average make more than female physicians. Also, if you look at the age, like the more experienced you are, the higher you make. So ethnicities in medicine, such as Caucasian white, have more of males, so more males, and people are also here older. So this is the reason you're seeing the difference. It's not because there's the racial bias. It's just because of gender and age, which are confounding the data. Now let's talk about salary by specialty and how it varies. So here you can see the median salary by specialty ranked from the highest to the lowest. In the top 10, you can see there's more of surgery. So neurosurgery, thoracic surgery, orthopedic surgery, plastic surgery, vascular surgery, oral and maxillofacial surgery. So surgeons in general make the most amount of money, with neurosurgeons making about $788,000 per year. And this is just base compensation. I have not even gone into different kind of incentives, sign-on bonuses, productivity bonuses. So they make more than this actually. On second is, you can see thoracic surgery making $707,000. Orthopedic surgery makes $624,000 on the third position. Fourth position goes to plastic surgery, making $571,000. Fifth position goes to vascular surgery, making $558,000. And sixth is oral and maxillofacial surgery, making $557,000. And then radiation oncology, cardiology, urology, and radiology. With the radiology, is now like $504,000. These are more medicine specific specialties which make higher. So if you look at who makes the lowest, within this you will see peds endo makes the lowest, and they make about $218,000 a year. Peds infectious diseases, so more pediatric specific specialties, makes $221,000. Pediatrics makes $243,000. So peds comes at the bottom, and then you'll see family medicine making $255,000, geriatrics making $275,000, which is funny because if you look at internal medicine, geriatrics a lot of the times is like a fellowship that you do. So many physicians from internal medicine, they do a fellowship and they end up making less than what an internal medicine physician would make, which is $294,000. But you can see based upon this data, like preventive medicine, endocrinology, infectious diseases, pediatric emergency medicine are in the lowest bracket. And so the way you can think of this is plus anything that's related to IM tends to make lower than surgery specific specialties. And the rest in the middle, you can see we have rheumatology, psychiatry, nephrology, neurology, and so many, and they make somewhat of a decent salary. Now let's look at which specialties saw the biggest increase in salary in 2024. So you can see based upon this, oncology had a 6.2% increase compared to 2023 in their salary, followed by pediatric in infectious diseases, which had 4.9%, and I think they do deserve it. Pediatric rheumatology also saw a 4.2% increase. On the fourth position was preventative medicine, seeing a 4% increase, and the fifth position went to pulmonology, having a 3.9% increase in their salary. Which specialties saw a decrease in their salary in 2024 compared to 2023? And these were ophthalmology, seeing about a 7% decrease in salary, emergency medicine seeing about a 6% decrease in salary, physiatry, which is PMNR, this is physical medicine and rehabilitation, saw a 5% decrease in their salary. Allergy and immunology also saw a 5% decrease in salary. Rheumatology saw about a 3% decrease in their salary. Now talking about gender pay gap in specialties and like which specialties have the highest gender pay gap versus the lowest pay gap. So if you look at the top specialties with the largest pay gap based if you're a male or a female, you'll see oral and maxillofacial. Men on an average make $568,000, women make $395,000. So women on an average make 47.3% less. In pediatric pulmonology, it's about 23.8%. In allergy and immunology, it's about 22.6% less for women. Urology, 21.5% less, and ophthalmology, it's about 21% less. Versus now, if you compare it to the specialties with the smallest gender pay gap, it's nuclear medicine, where women earn 3.1% less, which is a far cry from like 47.3% less, right? Pediatric cardiology, it's about 10.1% less. Pediatric gastroenterology, it's 11.2% less. Hematology, it's about 11.8% less. And pediatrics, it's about 11.9% less. So nuclear medicine is the most fair specialty if you look at gender pay gap. Now let's go into location specific salaries. So there are states which pay higher than other states. So these are the top states, and then there are states that pay lower, and we will talk about that as well. So if you look at the top 10 states with the highest median salary for physicians, Wisconsin has the highest, which is about $397,000. The second highest is Indiana, which is here $372,000. Third highest is Georgia, which is $363,000. Fourth highest is Connecticut, which is here $362,000. And fifth highest is Missouri, which is $361,000. New Jersey is on the sixth position, making about $360,000. And seventh position went to South Carolina, which is about $360,000 as well, so similar to New Jersey. Florida is $359,000. And then California is on the ninth position, $358,000, and the 10th position went to Michigan, which is $356,000. If you want to look at patterns, one pattern that you will find a lot is basically in general, if you look at the Midwest kind of makes the most money, and generally the South. You'll also look at this data later as well. So Midwest plus Southern states actually pay the highest in general. So these are regional salaries for the highest earning medical specialties, with like you can see cardiology, which is interventional cardiology here, orthopedic surgery, and neurosurgery and urology. So these are one of the highest paying specialties in medicine. And you can see here, like if you look at patterns like in a southern eastern region versus Midwest region versus southern region versus western region, you'll see that southern region, Midwest region, and western region, they actually make way more compared to the eastern region in general. And this is because there's more supply than there is demand in the East Coast versus what you look in the Midwest, the West, and the Southern area. Talking about metropolitan salaries, which is salaries in metropolitan cities. So which metro areas had the highest salaries in terms of like cities which are very developed? So Charlotte was the number one metro city with the highest salary, where physicians made $430,890 a year. St. Louis was on the second position, where physicians made $426,370,000 a year. Minneapolis was on the third position, where physicians made $425,634. Fourth position went to Oklahoma City, where physicians made $425,096. Fifth was Sacramento, and this is in California. It's $425,059. Sixth was Phoenix, which is so interesting, and they made about $422,735. Seventh was Indianapolis, where physicians made $419,359. San Jose in California got the eighth position, where physicians made $418,600. Ninth spot went to Salt Lake City, where physicians made $408,044. And 10th was Atlanta in Georgia. This is $407,863. Which metropolitan cities have the lowest salary? And you can see that Washington, D.C. is the number one metro area with the lowest salary, and that's $342,139. Baltimore was second lowest, where physicians made $346,260. Third lowest was Boston, where physicians made $347,553. Fourth was San Antonio, where physicians made $347,692. Fifth was Raleigh, where the salary was $351,732. Sixth was Providence, where the salary was $354,342. Seventh was Virginia Beach, where physicians made $354,587. Eighth position went to Denver, $357,010. Ninth lowest is Philadelphia, where physicians made $358,443. 10th lowest was Birmingham, where physicians made $361,463. Which metro areas received the biggest salary increases? So you can see Oklahoma City, there was an increase of 6.3% compared to 2023 in the increase in salary. Baltimore was for about 4.6% increase. Salt Lake City was 2.9% increase. Indianapolis was 2.5% increase. Providence was 2.4% increase. San Jose was 2.4% increase. Louisville was 2.2%. Riverside was 1.8%. San Diego was about 1.5%. Sacramento was about 1.1% at the lowest. Now let's talk about salary bonuses, which is you get a bonus whenever you join your job. This is the sign-on bonus or the signing bonus. You also get additional bonuses like productivity bonuses and incentives, which we'll talk about later. So looking into like sign-on bonus, which you get like whenever you sign up for a job, in 2023 it was about $31,228 versus in 2024 it was about $37,473 a year. So we are seeing about a 5% increase in the salary bonus as we go into 2024. Now what about like the types of bonuses? So I've already talked to you about the sign-on bonus, but there are other bonuses that you should be aware of. About 59% of physicians reported what we call as RV based bonus. This is a productivity bonus, which means the more patients you see, the higher compensation you get. And about 59% of employers offered that for physicians to increase their salaries. The second one was quality of care, where you as a physician are graded upon how well you follow evidence-based medicine plus other practices. And about 25% of employers did that and gave extra compensation. Net collections was about 20%. Patient encounters was about 5%, and gross billings in general was about 1%. So percentage of special and PCPs receiving incentive bonuses, which is what we talked about before. So you can see on an average, like PCPs, it was about 53% of PCPs received an incentive bonus versus specialists, which was about 57%. So specialists in general make more bonuses compared to what you'll see for PCPs. What were the top specialties earning bonuses? So you can see the number one position is orthopedics, which made about $134,000 in bonus for a year. So whatever salary you saw before, add $134,000 to that, and that's how much of a bonus they made in total. This is an increase of $8,000 from 2023. So there was an increase in the bonus. For cardiology, the second highest specialty earning bonuses, it was about $88,000. Third was radiology, about $80,000 in sign-on bonus. Fourth was general surgery, making about $75,000 in sign-on bonus. Fifth was anesthesiology, making about $68,000 in sign-on bonus. Sixth is OBGYN, making about $53,000 in sign-on bonus. Seventh is emergency medicine, making $37,000 in sign-on bonus. Eighth is psychiatry, making $37,000 in sign-on bonus. Ninth, family medicine, making $34,000 in sign-on bonus. 10th is internal medicine at like kind of the lowest, $33,000 in sign-on bonus, and pediatrics also like $31,000 in sign-on bonus. So you'll see a similar pattern like where we compared compensation between different specialties and the sign-on bonus, where peds, internal medicine, and family medicine generally come out at the bottom, and surgery specific specialties come out at the top with the rest in the middle. Now let's talk about average incentive bonus by employer and how much has that changed from 2023 to 2024. So you'll see that like there in the US there's different levels of care. There's health maintenance organization, there's solo practice, government, like where you're working for the Veterans Affairs. There's health systems, which way you can work for big health systems. There's the hospital systems. There is private practice, which is like in a single specialty group or a multi-specialty group. You can work for the pharmaceutical industry, academic centers, or like urgent care, which is like the emergency department. So you'll see like from 2023 to 2024, health maintenance organization, solo practice, government, and like health systems saw increases in their incentive bonuses, with health maintenance organization getting a 3.4% increase, solo practice getting a 3% increase, government setups getting 1.8% increase, and health systems getting about just a 1.4% increase. Versus when you compare it to, let's say, urgent care, academics, centers, industry, pharmaceutical, if you're working for the pharmaceutical industry or private practice or a hospital, they actually saw a decrease, as you can see here, with the biggest decrease in urgent care, which was -1%, academic centers having a -9% decrease, pharmaceutical industry getting a -8% decrease, academic centers getting a -0.9% decrease, industry working for pharmaceutical industry got you a -0.8% decrease, working for multi-specialty group or single specialty group got you a -0.7% decrease in your bonuses. Now talking about specialties which are in high demand versus low demand specialties, and why this is so important, because if you think about any kind of compensation, it typically follows a pattern where if you want to see like an increase in compensation, it generally applies to where demand is more than supply, right? Versus if you want to see where compensation has decreased, their supply is more than demand. This is generally like the pattern that follows for physician compensations, and this can be based upon like location, where like which locations have high demand versus low demand. This can also be like the need of the hour, right? Certain specialties as time goes by get more and more in high demand. One example is psychiatry, where because of mental health diseases increasing, so specialties like psychiatry is actually seeing massive increases in the salary. So the truth overall though is by 2034, based upon multiple predictions, the overall shortage of physicians in the US will be about 124,000 physicians, which is a lot. Out of this, about 48,000 PCPs will be in shortage, which is primary care physicians, and 76,000 specialists will be in shortage. So based upon this, because of the shortage in general, and as the shortage actually increases, you will also see all salaries increasing more than what the previous years have held. So specialty demand, here are the top 10 most recruited physicians, right? So the most recruited specialties you'll see, and these are not in any kind of specific order, it's just based upon survey data, and these are just the top 10. Don't think that this is ascending or descending order. It's family medicine, radiology, obstetrics and gynecology, anesthesiology, psychiatry, internal medicine, gastroenterology, cardiology, hematology and oncology, and neurology. So these specialties are getting more in demand than other specialties. State specific demand, like these are the states where there's the highest demand for physicians, and based upon this, like you will see there's two different kind of demands. You can see the first one is the general demand, and the second one is the locum tenens demand. General demand is for PCPs and specialists. Locum tenens are physicians that are brought on because there is a severe demand for a certain specialty and they don't have a physician and they need a physician. That is what we call as locum tenens, and this is basically higher paid than what you'll see for a PCP or like specialist who is employed. But there are issues with locum tenens where you have to sponsor your own insurance, and this can be health care insurance, or this could be disability insurance, or other kinds of benefits you miss upon if you are a locum tenens, but that is exchanged for a higher compensation. So you'll see in general, Tallahassee, Florida has the highest demand, followed by Springfield, Illinois, which is the second highest demand. Third was Olympia, which is third highest. Fourth was Montgomery, Alabama. Fifth was Salem, and sixth was Fort Wayne. Seventh was Albany, New York. Eighth was Trenton. Ninth is Lansing, and 10th is Raleigh in North Carolina. Locum tenens demand wise, Tallahassee, Florida again topped it, so they have the highest need for physicians, and I guess like you will also see the salary goes up in these areas. Second is Springfield, third is Albany, fourth is Trenton, fifth is Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I live in Pennsylvania. Sixth is Raleigh, North Carolina. Seventh is Lansing, Michigan. Eighth is Des Moines. Ninth is Fort Wayne, and 10th is Richmond. Now we're going to take a deep dive into the specialty satisfaction, like which specialties specialties are the highest satisfied with their compensation, with their work-life balance. So the first one is, which physicians are most likely to choose the same specialty again? So physicians were asked, hey, like in different specialties, like would you choose this specialty or not again if you were to do it all over again? Number one is plastic surgery, where about 97% of plastic surgeons would do plastic surgery all over again if they had to do everything all over, right? Second was urology, where about 96% of urologists said that they would go back into urology if they had to restart. Third was orthopedics, where 95% of orthopedicians said they would do orthopedics all over again. Fourth was ophthalmology, where the rate was 92%. Fifth was gastroenterology, where the rate was 92%, again just like ophthalmology. Sixth was radiology, where 90% of physicians said they would go back into radiology. Seventh was dermatology, where about 90% of physicians said they would go back into dermatology. Now what about those specialties where physicians were the least likely to choose the same specialty again? In this, you'll see that internal medicine topped the list with about 61% of physicians saying that they would do internal medicine again. Second was family medicine, where the rate was just about 66%. Third was public health and preventative medicine, where the rate was 71% of physicians saying they would do public health and preventative medicine again. Fourth was nephrology, where the rate was higher, it was 72%. Fifth was emergency medicine, the rate was 74%. Sixth was pulmonology, where the rate was 76%, as you can see here. Seventh was OBGYN, where the rate was 76%. So these are the specialties which were the least likely to choose the same specialty again. So now talking about the specialty compensation satisfaction, which specialties were the happiest with their compensation and which specialties were the least happy with their compensation. So you can see the specialty which was the happiest with their compensation was psychiatry, where 68% of physicians said, I love my salary for the amount of time I put into it. Second was dermatology, where the satisfaction rate was 65%. Third was public health and preventative medicine, where the rate was similar to dermatology. Fourth was a critical care, where the rate was 63%. Fifth was otolaryngology, where the rate was 59%. And specialties which were the most unsatisfied with their compensation are shown here. So in orthopedics, about 49% believe that they were not fairly compensated. So this was the number one, right? Second one was a public medicine, which is 48% of physicians did not feel fairly compensated. Third was pediatrics, 45% of physicians did not feel fairly compensated. Fourth was diabetes and endocrinology, where the rate was similar to pediatrics. Fifth was OBGYN, where the rate was similar to peds and diabetes and endocrinology. Sixth is nephrology, only 43% of physicians here. Seventh is internal medicine, 43%. Eighth is ophthalmology, where the rate was 42%. Ninth was infectious diseases, where the rate was 35%. Now talking about work-life balance, because in addition to salary, what also matters is, do you have enough time to follow your hobbies or time to spend with your family? So this is very important for physician satisfaction. So in general, every medical specialty works more than 40 hours a week, with the average being 50 hours a week for both PCPs and specialists. When physicians were asked, would you take less pay for more life? About 54% of them said yes, and 46% said no. Now talking about work hours per specialty, so the top 10 specialties which work the most are as follows. Critical care, where it was 57.7 hours per week. Second was general surgery, which is 57.4 hours per week. Third was cardiology, 56.2 hours per week. Fourth was nephrology, which is 54.9 hours per week. Fifth is urology, which is 54.7 hours per week. And sixth is OBGYN, which is 53.9 hours per week. Seventh, pulmonary medicine, which is 53.3 hours per week. Eighth is infectious diseases, which is 53.1 hours per week. Ninth is neurology, which is 53 hours per week. And 10th is orthopedics, which is 52.9 hours per week. Now talking about the specialties with the best work-life balance. So allergy and immunology is 44.1 hours per week. Second is dermatology, which is 44.2 hours per week. Third is emergency medicine, which is 44 hours per week. Fourth is ophthalmology, which is 5.3 hours per week. Fifth is public health and preventative medicine, which is 45.9 hours per week. Sixth is psychiatry, which is 46.6 hours per week. Seventh is pediatrics, which is 47 hours per week. Eighth is rheumatology, which is 47.2 hours per week. Ninth is family medicine, which is 48 hours per week. And 10th is pathology, which is 48.2 hours per week. And the rest are in the middle. We also need to talk about paperwork per specialty. This is important because documentation, as research has shown us, the more time physicians spend spend in documentation, the more burnout they feel, because it is something that a lot of physicians feel is non-meaningful, where they're not seeing the patients, and there's a big correlation between burnout and how much time you spend in paperwork, and you'll see the reflection here as well in many ways. So the specialty with the highest paperwork and administration was physical medicine and rehab, which is 19 hours per week of doing just paperwork and administration. Second is critical care medicine, which is 18 hours, right? Third is internal medicine, which is 18 hours. Fourth is nephrology, which is 18 hours. Fifth is neurology, which is 18 hours. And sixth is oncology, which is about 18 hours. Seventh is family medicine, 17 hours. Eighth is cardiology, which is 16 hours. Ninth is psychiatry, which is 16 hours. And 10th is diabetes and endocrinology, which is 16 hours as well. Specialties with the least paperwork, and you'll see a correlation like surgery specific specialties, which are more surgery oriented, tend to have the least paperwork. Anesthesiology has the least paperwork of just 9 hours per week. Second is ophthalmology, which is about 10 hours per week. Third is radiology, which is 11 hours per week. Fourth is plastic surgery, which is also 11 hours per week. Fifth is dermatology, which is 11 hours per week. Sixth is gastroenterology, which is 13 hours per week. Seventh is emergency medicine, which is 13 hours per week. Eighth is otolaryngology, which is 14 hours per week. Ninth is urology, which is 14 hours per week. And 10th is orthopedics, which is 14 hours per week. So these have the best work-life balance. In terms of satisfaction with their job, males and physicians were asked, do you feel overworked in general? About 92% of female physicians said that they felt overworked, versus 83% of male physicians who said they were overworked, which is about a 9% decrease. So like male physicians on average felt less overworked than female physicians. So if you made it to the end, congrats. You're the person who finishes what they start. Hats off to you, and thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please consider sharing it with a friend who can benefit from this, as I want to impact the most amount of medical students and physicians as possible. And if you can help with that, be awesome. Again, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.